He was an action hero, a cultural icon, a martial arts legend on the cusp of superstardom.
Working together, and I tried to learn from him, and I think he tried to learn from me.
He is a legitimate Aikido black belt. In fact, he was an instructor, one of the very first Americans to teach at a dojo in Japan.
What if two of the most famous martial artists faced off? Bruce Lee, the lightning-fast fighter who changed action movies forever, and Steven Seagal, the Aikido master known for his deadly joint locks. While there have been rumors that they faced off in real life, fans have debated for years who would win. In this video, we'll compare their skills, fighting styles, and real-world effectiveness. Can Seagal's Aikido stop Lee's speed and power, and what comments has Seagal made on Bruce Lee? Stay tuned as we share the untold story of the Steven Seagal versus Bruce Lee debate. Bruce Lee versus Steven Seagal, the tale of two legends. Two martial arts legends, Bruce Lee and Steven Seagal, came from completely different backgrounds. Bruce Lee reportedly grew up in the chaotic streets of Hong Kong, where he learned to fight at a young age, long before he could even drive. His journey was widely believed led him to develop Jeet Kune Do, a philosophy centered on speed, adaptability, and raw power. Meanwhile, Steven Seagal found his path in Japan, where he immersed himself in Aikido. He reportedly became the first Westerner to run a dojo there. Unlike Lee, Seagal focused on effortless control, using an opponent's energy against them through precise joint locks and redirections. The names of these two have often been brought up in debates, as there have been rumors of the two meetings. Now the question is, if they had faced each other, who would have had the upper hand? Before we dive deeper, let's take a quick look into the brief history of these two martial arts legends and the comparison of their martial arts style. Stick around. This might just be the beginning of what is to be revealed. Reports have it that Bruce Lee was introduced to the Hong Kong film industry as a child actor by his father. His early martial arts experience included Wing Chun, trained under Ip Man.
I have several questions. What is the highest technique you hope to achieve?
To have no technique.
Very good. What are your thoughts when facing an opponent?
There is no opponent.
And why is that?
Because the word I does not exist.
In 1959, Lee reportedly moved to Seattle, where he enrolled at the University of Washington in 1961. It was during this time in the United States that he began to consider making money by teaching martial arts, even though he had an aspiration to start a career in acting. Bruce Lee is widely regarded as one of the most influential martial artists of all time, and his fighting skills were exceptional. Lee developed his own martial art philosophy called Jeet Kune Do, which emphasized practicality, efficiency, and directness. He was known for his speed, agility, and innovative techniques. Lee was small in stature, which was about 5 feet 7 inches and around 140 pounds, but he had incredible strength and conditioning, which allowed him to perform techniques that were both powerful and fast. While there are limited recorded matches involving Lee, he was widely known for his sparring prowess and was highly respected by his peers. On the other hand, Steven Seagal began his adult life as a martial arts instructor in Japan, where he became the first American to teach in an Aikido dojo. He is known for his emphasis on joint locks and throws. His style is believed to rely heavily on Aikido principles, which focuses on using an opponent's energy against them, which is different from the striking focus of Bruce Lee. Seagal's action films are widely known to often showcase his martial arts skills, but his real-life fighting experience is reported to be less. He was later reported to have moved to Los Angeles, where he continued teaching Aikido. In 1988, Seagal made his acting debut in Above the Law with director Andrew Davis. Seagal was asked to make the film by agent Michael Ovitz, who reportedly became convinced that Seagal had movie star potential after taking Aikido classes with him. It is regarded as the first American film to feature Aikido in fight sequences. He has appeared in over 50 films, but what if there's more to be known about these two great martial artists? And was there ever a fight between them? You're about to find out. Rumors and reactions about Bruce Lee and Steven Seagal fight. Over the years, there have been several rumors and arguments over the possibility of a fight between Steven Seagal and Bruce Lee. Seagal was believed to have met Bruce Lee through his friend James Coburn, who also happened to be a close friend of Bruce Lee. Seagal was reported to have exchanged stories with Bruce about their sons, who were around the same age at that time. According to reports, that was the time Seagal met Bruce Lee and fought him. There were also reports that suggested Seagal saw it as a great pleasure to have fought Bruce and that he believed he learned something from him. But how realistic was this fight? Could it have happened? Get ready for yet another shocking revelation that will keep you on the edge of your seat. In 1971, according to reports, Bruce Lee injured his back a year before the movie Silent Flute was shot, which left him severely weakened. As a result, James Coburn reportedly thrashed the movie shortly after Bruce returned to India. Bruce was also reported to have set off for Hong Kong in October 1971 before the movie Big Boss was released in theaters. It was reported that Bruce Lee had not started teaching James Coburn and other A-list celebrities until after he played Kato in The Green Hornet, which left a 3-year or 4-year gap between 1967 and 1970 before Bruce injured his back. This is believed to have raised further questions as to when Steven Seagal trained with Bruce and the reported fight between them. Ever since the reported fight between the two martial arts legends, some have argued that Steven Seagal could not have fought Bruce Lee, who was born in 1952, making him about 12 years younger than Bruce Lee. It was also argued that he could not have even trained with him, but according to Steven, he saw someone doing martial arts during the halftime show at a high school football game, where his father was coaching and eventually got discovered by his first karate teacher while washing dishes. He reportedly trained in old-school traditional Okinawan karate until he managed to graduate early from high school at the age of 16 and left for Japan at 17, where he stayed for 18 years. This has further strengthened the belief by some that Steven Seagal would have met Bruce Lee when he was 15 to 17 years old. Others argued that they don't think Bruce was into teaching kids, and that Steven Seagal was only a big action star in the early 90s. Another commenter said that if the fight truly happened, someone who represented the Bruce Lee estate would have said something. There were also some arguments that if Seagal left for Japan at the age of 17, that would have been in 1969, and that Steven Seagal did not begin to study Aikido until he got to Japan. The claims of Seagal bonding over their children, his meeting and training with Bruce in 1967 and 1969, have therefore since been dispelled as not real and factual. According to reports, there have been talks about who could possibly win between the two martial artists if they actually engaged in a fight. A viewer said Steven was not going to challenge Bruce Lee on the clean living and healthy eating front anytime soon.
Working together, and I tried to learn from him, and I think he tried to learn from me, and so being able to work with him that day and fight him was a great pleasure.
Another said that Seagal's robust physique might not necessarily be a bad thing. Unlike Lee, who was believed moved away from clean Chinese martial arts to create his own free-flowing Jeet Kune Do style. Seagal is even considered by some to be a proficient black belter in his main style of Aikido, as well as Judo, Kendo, and Karate. Steven Seagal has seen his former associates, and anyone who has seen his movies knows that the big man preaches a form of Aikido that's fairly ruthless and street-ready, which along with his massive size advantage believes should technically give him the ability to throw a Bruce Lee-sized opponent around like a rag doll. Regardless of whether they met or not, both artists could be said to have made an outstanding impact, but who made the greatest impact? Bruce Lee versus Steven Seagal's impact and ultimate legacy. While both Bruce Lee and Steven Seagal had significant impacts on martial arts and action films, Bruce Lee is widely considered to have had the more profound and lasting influence, particularly in popularizing martial arts cinema and changing perceptions of Asian actors in Hollywood. Bruce Lee was believed to have pioneered martial arts cinema. Lee's films, like Enter the Dragon, The Way of the Dragon, and The Big Boss, reportedly popularized martial arts movies globally, making them mainstream entertainment. Bruce also became the first global Chinese film star and a cultural icon, influencing generations of martial artists and actors. Lee's success was also believed to have challenged stereotypical portrayals of Asian people in American cinema and opened doors for other Asian actors. Lee's philosophy of Jeet Kune Do, which emphasized adaptability and practicality, resonated with many and continues to inspire martial arts practitioners. After Lee's death, his films reportedly gained a large cult following. Lee himself became one of the biggest pop culture icons of the 20th century, and he is often credited with changing the way Asians were presented in American films. A slightly fictionalized biopic, Dragon, The Bruce Lee Story, appeared in 1993. His son, Brandon, reportedly followed Lee into acting, and he died after being shot with a misloaded prop gun while filming The Crow in 1994. Seagal's films such as Lethal Weapon and Under Siege featured a unique style of action, heavily influenced by his Aikido training. Seagal is known to have carved a niche for himself as a tough guy action star and has since popularized the man of few words persona. Seagal's films are believed to have helped shape the action genre, with his style and approach influencing many other action stars, but Seagal's career has not been without a handful of controversies. He has reportedly faced numerous allegations of sexual harassment and assault from multiple women over the years. These allegations are believed to have contributed to a negative public perception of him. He was also reported to have been involved in various legal disputes, which included lawsuits related to his behavior on set and other personal conduct. Seagal has also been known for his ties to controversial political figures, including his friendship with Russian President Vladimir Putin. His outspoken support for Putin and his involvement in Russian politics reportedly drew criticism from different spheres of life, especially given the geopolitical tensions between Russia and the West. Seagal has often seen himself being criticized for appropriating Asian culture, particularly in his martial arts films and practices. Some people believe that his portrayal of martial arts is inauthentic or disrespectful. His self-promoting and sometimes eccentric public persona, including claims about his martial arts skills and personal life, have led some to view him as a figure of ridicule rather than respect. These factors combined are believed to have made Steven Seagal a polarizing figure in popular culture. While some fans still appreciate his films, others criticize his actions and public statements. Bruce Lee and Steven Seagal left distinct marks on martial arts and cinema. Lee is a revered icon of discipline and skill, and Seagal is a polarizing figure blending Aikido with Hollywood action. While one inspires admiration and the other debates, both shaped how martial arts are portrayed, ensuring their legacies endure. Lee's one-inch punch. Bruce Lee's one-inch punch is the most well-known move in martial arts history. As its name suggests, the one-inch punch is a technique martial artists use to hit targets at incredibly close range. The thought that, if done right, an attacker can exert enough force to bring down his opponent makes it unique. Bruce Lee's one-inch punch gained widespread recognition as early as the 1960s, about 10 years before Lee rose to prominence as a global martial arts celebrity. Lee became famous when he demonstrated it at the Beach Karate National Championship. At the time, the martial arts community took notice of him widely. Interest in Lee's one-inch punch increased dramatically as his notoriety increased. Although Lee made the move so famous that many renowned martial artists from different kung fu forms now utilize it, Lee remains the most well-known practitioner of the technique. Keep watching. The story is just getting interesting. Lee did not come up with the one-inch punch suddenly in 1964. It is based on Chinese martial arts in general and the instruction he received as a teenager. Lee's martial arts expertise began in the 1950s when he trained under Wing Chun Grandmaster Wing Chun, who laid the groundwork for Lee's form of Kung Fu, Jeet Kune Do. The one-inch punch's tenets derive from its theory, since Wing Chun is a fighting style for close quarters. Lee was already acquainted with techniques designed for close-quarters combat because of his training in Wing Chun. Before the one-inch punch was publicly unveiled, Bruce Lee's pupil, James DeMille, provided insight into Lee's development method. He claimed that Lee developed an enhanced version of an already known Wing Chun move. Lee attempted to shorten the technique by experimenting with various stances and angles, since he thought it would be more effective if performed from a closer range. Eventually, they found a combination that worked. Lee demonstrated its power once by throwing someone 16 feet back and landing them squarely in a chair. Lee's accuracy, instant execution, speed, a crucial attribute for which the actor is currently well known, and the precise angle at which he accomplished it are all responsible for his accomplishments. Bruce Lee's one-inch punch is mighty because of his speed, which is also one of the reasons so few martial artists have been able to replicate it so well. Lee's father taught him the foundations of martial arts. During his teenage years, Lee got entangled in gang disputes in Hong Kong, which resulted in a lot of street battles. Lee's studies of Wing Chun had the most significant impact on his development as a martial artist. After suffering defeats at the hands of rival gang members, 16-year-old Lee trained in Wing Chun under Ip Man in late 1956 and early 1957. Form practice, sticking hand drills, wooden dummy techniques, and free sparring were the main components of Ip's regular lessons. The classes followed no predetermined schedule. Between 1956 and 1958, Edward, the coach of the St. Francis Xavier's College boxing team, trained Lee in boxing. In 1958, Lee defeated Gary Elms, the defending champion, via knockout in the Hong Kong Schools Boxing Championship final. Following his relocation to the US, Lee was significantly impacted by heavyweight boxing champion Muhammad Ali, whose moves he observed and adopted into his style during the 1960s. Lee advocated mixed martial arts training and was especially interested in grappling. In addition to Jean Labelle, Lee received instruction from several judo practitioners in Seattle and California, including Fred Sato, Jesse Glover, Taki Kimura, Hayward Nishioka, and Wally J. He studied as much as he taught, and many of his early pupils were skilled in judo and other martial arts. On the set of The Green Hornet, Lee became friends with Labelle and offered to teach him striking arts in exchange for learning grappling tactics. Lee's grappling tactics. Prominent grapplers Lou Thez and Ed Lewis had taught Labelle to catch wrestling, and vital judo and catch wrestling techniques can be found in Lee's Tao of Jeet Kune Do. Ji Hanjai, the Hapkido instructor, also taught him some grappling techniques. Glover claims that Lee's main observation about judo's ineffectiveness was when it came to seizing the opponent. During their first training session, Glover demonstrated an Osoto Gari for Lee, which Lee thought was a good technique, but he didn't appreciate that Glover had to cling to Lee. Lee learned how to avoid being tackled or taken to the ground by opponents while living in Seattle. Glover said that Lee would not go to the ground if he could get you standing up. Still, Lee told Labelle that he wished to incorporate judo into his fighting technique. He added judo throws, arm locks, and chokeholds to Jeet Kune Do, including the Osoto Gari. Lee showcased grappling moves in his films, including Way of the Dragon, where his character finishes his opponent Chuck Norris with a neck hold inspired by Labelle. Lee felt grappling was not very useful in action choreography because it was not visually distinctive. In addition, Lee and Han Jae trade grappling techniques in Game of Death, and Lee uses wrestling to subdue Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's character. The training regimen of the Great Gama, an Indian-Pakistani Pelwani wrestling champion renowned for his strength in the grappling hold, also impacted Lee. Lee used Gama's workouts as part of his regimen, but that's not all. The Dragon Flag Bruce Lee was an extreme sportsman. According to his widow, Linda Lee, he would watch TV athletes perform full splits and never miss an opportunity to work out. Bruce's wife claimed that he would practice and hone his talents virtually every minute of the day. He knew he would need to put in a tremendous deal of practice and exercise to be the best martial artist in the world. Building up his core was Lee's top priority out of all the muscles in his body, since he felt that the stomach region, or core, is involved in practically every movement, and is crucial in martial arts. Lee created what is now known as the Dragon Flag in his honor to strengthen his core. It is regarded as one of the most challenging core workouts available if you can't figure it out. Since Lee didn't play around, though Lee is said to have been able to sustain his entire body on the edge of a bench with only his shoulders touching anything, while the rest of his body remained perfectly rigid and horizontal to the ground, Stallone may have popularized the move in Rocky IV. These days, martial artists worldwide use Bruce's Dragon Flag exercises as a standard because of his ability to make martial artists understand the value of having strong core muscles. Stay tuned. The best part of the video is just around the corner. Lee's superhuman strength. Bruce Lee's sheer power is one of his accomplishments that many people fail to recognize. Although it may seem apparent that a martial artist must possess strength, most people are unaware of Bruce Lee's actual level of strength. Most people think that having very massive muscles equates to strength. Most likely, when you imagine someone who is powerful, you envision someone roughly 6 feet tall with more muscles than they could need. But Bruce Lee was a tiny man, but he possessed strength beyond the reach of most people's imaginations. Examining his training bags is a simple method to demonstrate this. Bruce practiced punching and kicking with training bags like other people do, but he would devour these packages in an instant. He would frequently pound through or rupture standard punching bags to the point where it became inconvenient for him to use them. Bruce would therefore have to locate denser, heavier sacks that would not break under the impact of his extraordinary power. Remember that a typical punching bag weighs roughly 50 kilograms. However, Bruce frequently had to utilize bags weighing more than 135 kilograms. According to reports, Bruce was able to kick these bags many feet into the air, which just served to highlight how amazing things are. Bruce could send these sacks moving, but if you tried to kick one yourself, they probably wouldn't move more than an inch or two when you made contact. Bruce Lee understood the human body like a pro. Not only could he perform an astonishingly high quantity of push-ups, but he could complete them with just one hand. He was once put through a test to determine how many push-ups he could complete. Bruce boldly decided to go further and challenged himself to perform push-ups with just 2 fingers. He accomplished more than 200 push-ups in this try. Later, he set a higher standard and accomplished at least 100 push-ups using his thumb. If that weren't enough, he frequently performed hundreds of pull-ups with just one hand. But there's still another awe-inspiring accomplishment. Bruce Lee could perform more than 1,500 consecutive push-ups without pausing if you were to judge him only on his standard form. Although that is utterly unbelievable, that is the reality. There was no man like this. That's not all. Bruce Lee enthusiasts have long known this, but those unfamiliar with martial arts might not. Bruce Lee was acclaimed as one of the world's best martial arts actors when he shot to fame in the 1960s and 1970s. But he came dangerously close to failing in the film industry. You might wonder why, since he was just too quick. Filmmakers could not capture Bruce Lee's movements in real time when they worked on The Green Hornet, one of his most well-known TV series. We now own cameras capable of recording at 30, 60, 120, or even 240 frames per second. However, most cameras in the 1960s and 70s had trouble recording film at a speed of only 24 frames per second. As a result, most of Bruce Lee's fight scenes appeared incorrectly in the film. As the filmmakers soon discovered, Bruce could throw 9 punches in a second. In addition, he had a 6-second kickoff speed. Bruce appeared motionless in numerous combat scenes because capturing his movements on a camera that could only capture 24 frames per second at most was difficult. Producers on the set then claimed that the footage they captured showed Bruce standing still as his foes descended around him. In actuality, though, his talent was too outstanding for the movies to match. The filmmakers had to ask Bruce to slow down so they could follow him properly, which helped to correct the dilemma. But even after that, his movements appear quite hazy on camera. If you enjoy watching martial arts movies, you've watched Karate Kid before. When you watch the movie again, you probably remember a scene where Daniel LaRusso practices using chopsticks to capture flies. What looks easy on the surface turns out to be quite challenging. Bruce Lee, though, would go one further. Regretfully, there was never a flawless photo of this accomplishment. However, according to reports, Bruce Lee would throw pieces of rice into the air and use chopsticks to catch them. He took this action to sharpen his reflexes in the most remarkable manner imaginable. He was reportedly very expert at it, seeing the rice practically every time it was thrown into the air. His reflexes were significantly quicker than any of his rivals at the moment. And after all these years, nobody has been able to equal or exceed his achievements. It seems so complex that many people today question whether Bruce Lee was able to accomplish this accomplishment at all. However, this is simply one more instance of Bruce Lee's superhuman abilities. Jeet Kune Do. Bruce Lee is the creator and practitioner of Jeet Kune Do, also known as JKD. It is a hybrid martial art that translates to way of the intercepting fist in Chinese. It developed as a new school of martial arts philosophy from Lee's experiences in unarmed combat and self-defense, and eclectic Zen Buddhist and Taoist beliefs. As an eclectic martial art, it relies on a fighting style heavily influenced by Wing Chun, Tai Chi, Taekwondo, boxing, fencing, and Jiu-Jitsu. Bruce Lee himself never formalized Jeet Kune Do before his death, forcing later JKD practitioners to rely upon their interpretation of the philosophy created by Bruce Lee. The central idea of Jeet Kune Do is the interception of the opponent and making corresponding responses or counterattacks that strike at incoming attacks. JKD also incorporates principles to help practitioners make instant decisions and improve the physical and mental self. The story just got much more enjoyable. 4 universal combat truths that Lee believed were self-evident and, if followed, would lead to combat success were incorporated into Jeet Kune Do. He thought that the 4 combat ranges in particular were crucial to his development as a total martial artist. Additionally, mixed martial arts are mostly tied to this principle. The intercepting idea comes from the belief held by JKD practitioners that a potent offense is always the best defense. Lee thought an opponent had to approach a target to attack them. This presented a chance to intercept that assault or motion. Intercepting physical attacks is not the only application of the interception principle. According to Lee, many nonverbals and telegraphs, subtle motions that an opponent is blind to, can be read or intercepted and utilized to one's benefit. Forming the offensive aspect of JKD, the 5 ways of attack are attacking categories that assist practitioners of Jeet Kune Do organize their fighting repertoire. The defensive part of JKD consists of the ideas of stop strikes and stop kicks, and simultaneous parrying and punching, which were taken from European fencing and Wing Chun's principle of simultaneous striking and defending. Lee adapted these ideas for unarmed combat and incorporated them into the JKD framework. Additionally, these ideas support the other interception principle. Lee said martial arts systems ought to be as adaptable as feasible. He frequently utilized the analogy of water to explain why flexibility is a valued quality in martial arts. Water has limitless flexibility. It can be seen through, yet it may also sometimes make objects invisible. It can break apart, circumnavigate obstacles, reassemble on the opposite side, or smash through obstacles. It can flow by the tiniest pebble or slowly lap at the toughest boulders to dissolve them. These are the qualities Lee thought a martial system ought to possess. Because of this rigidity, JKD students reject conventional fighting tactics, training regimens, and Confucian pedagogy in traditional kung fu schools. JKD is an incredibly flexible, dynamic idea because it is constantly changing. Bruce Lee is credited with saying, "Take what is beneficial, throw away what is useless." It is encouraged by JKD students to study every possible kind of warfare. This is thought to increase one's understanding of other combat techniques, build up one's armory, and teach one how to counter such strategies. Lee, the magician. If you've ever watched a magician up close, you've undoubtedly seen this timeless trick of taking a coin from behind someone's ear. Most magicians master this fundamental trick at some time in their careers. Unbelievably, Bruce Lee used to execute an identical feat for his followers. Bruce Lee would offer you a coin and place it in your hand rather than hiding one behind your ear. He would want you to extend your hand as far apart as possible. Bruce then had you close your palm before he could take the coin from you, detecting even the slightest movement on his part. No one could ever stop this man from taking the coin out of someone's palm because of how fast he moved, but Bruce continued to refine the trick over time, making it even more impressive. Bruce would not only take the penny before the person could close their hand, but he would also replace it with a different one. Whenever you believed the situation was under control, he would open your palm and show you that a new coin had been inserted. Imagine, please, if this man had chosen to use his abilities for evil rather than good. He would have been an expert swindler. Fortunately, Bruce made a far more honorable life choice: Lee's legacy and impact. As a pop culture hero of the 20th century who united East and West, Lee is regarded by some commentators and martial artists as the most influential martial artist of all time and time, ranking Lee among the top 100 significant individuals of the 20th century. Lee has been the subject of several biographies. More than 4 million copies of a biography had been sold by 1988. Mixed martial arts, or MMA, is a combat sport inspired by Jeet Kune Do, a hybrid martial arts ideology developed by Bruce Lee that draws from several combat techniques. Bruce Lee popularized the idea of mixed martial arts in the West with his Jeet Kune Do system. According to Lee's beliefs, the most excellent combatant can change with the times, be unstructured, take on a unique style, and disregard established norms. Many people's interest in martial arts can be mainly attributed to Lee. Among them are several combat sports fighters who cite Lee as an inspiration. Boxing great Sugar Ray Leonard claimed he learned how to perfect his jab from watching Lee. Boxing great Manny Pacquiao likened Lee to his fighting style. And UFC champion Conor McGregor has drawn comparisons between himself and Lee, stating he thinks Lee would have won the UFC if he were still competing today. In the 1970s, Lee inspired Joe Louis and Benny Urquidez to start full-contact kickboxing events in the United States. Jun Gu Rhee, the father of American Taekwondo, acquired what he refers to as the occupancy from Lee and adapted it into his style. The heavyweight boxing champion Muhammad Ali learned the occupancy from Rhee, who later became his coach. Ali utilized this technique to submit Richard Dunn in 1975. Everyone wanted to be Bruce Lee. In the 1970s, heavyweight boxing champion Mike Tyson claimed. John Jones, the current UFC heavyweight champion, credited Lee as an inspiration. Jones is well known for often employing the oblique kick to the knee, a move made famous by Lee. The former UFC middleweight champion Anderson Silva has also mentioned Lee as an influence. Several other UFC competitors have called Lee their grandfather or godfather of mixed martial arts, and many have cited him as an inspiration. Lee is recognized for having influenced how Asians were portrayed in American movies. He disproved notions about Asian men that they are weaker than men. Tough, strong, and sexy is how University of Michigan lecturer Hye-Seung Chung described Lee's portrayal of Asian males, breaking with previous preconceptions that portrayed them as emasculated, infantile, coolies, or domestic servants. Lee's fame also created a new Asian stereotype, the martial artist. At first, audiences in North America who saw his films were primarily Hispanic, Asian, and Black.
Like when Brandon Lee died, he died on a set of a movie in a special effects scene. They shot him with a fake gun, a gun with blanks, but there was some piece of a shell or something that was still in the chamber of the gun, and that shot into him.
There aren't many people who die and are actively mourned and celebrated after more than half a century has passed, but Bruce Lee is one of such legends. While his life was one of great impact, his death is possibly one of the biggest controversies in the Hall of Fame.
What do you think about the Bruce Lee versus Steven Seagal story? Do you think Bruce and Steve really met and had a fight? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click on the following video showing